Why public lakes? I like the freedom. It's an adventure for me. I want to go carp fishing where it's not busy city. So you know, a lot of the public lakes in the UK, well, sorry, a lot of the syndicates in the UK are very busy, and I want to come out here and have that sense of I don't know what's in there. You know, there's rumours of good fish, but I like that in my angling. That I don't know. There's not a stock of. You go on their website. There's a target list. Every fish is known. You know, and I think you get that. It's more like a kid mentality because it brings that magic back. And surroundings, like you're in the wilderness. You see so many, not just the fishing and the fish, but you also see so many beautiful wildlife. You know, the bird life. It's amazing, and that's why I do it. It's an adventure. It's unknown to me. You know, I'm not a pioneer. People have fished this lake. Let's be honest, but I don't know what's in here, and that's what excites me. That's why I do this. My name's John Paul. Welcome to Dialed In. In this session, I'm going to talk through how I approach public lake carp fishing and the tactics and the approach I take. This is the second fish of the session, the biggest one from last night. We'll slip her back and I'll talk you through how I approach these waters. So you join me in central France on a very big water. We ended up in here. We looked at a couple of places on this lake and we settled in this area. I managed to get the rods out by 11 last night. It was a really late one. We've been on the road since 10 to 5 UK time. Dropping those rigs out, we managed 2 fish last night. One last night, one this morning. And we're just re-dropping this rod. There is a snag down to my left. So you can see here with the woodwork. That's all the woodwork in the water. All of that. So that you can see the tree quite clearly. And that's the end of the tree. And I was dropping. So I'm looking for the hard spot. So, you know, we're looking to fish on this 5 meters just off the tree. So 5.7. And then what I do, you can either, I like to feather down like this. People say this is wrong, but this is my preferred route. And then I'd slowly fill it down, and you see there, bang. So I'm happy with that. Off the snag. I'm not fishing dangerously, you know, I don't think we need to go that close. It proved last night. And then what I'd do, because I want to spread, I'm using a hinge on this. I'll go away from it, and then I'll bait up. We're not putting masses out, we're trying to nick a bite at the moment, and then we'll build the spot up. Nice spread and I'm using big boilies and tigers. You know, you want the fish rooting around, ideally. That's in 5 meters when it hits and spreads out. And then what I'm doing here, I'm going back to the rig, picking up the line, because else the line will come this way. Turn around, and then we can go straight to the bank. So you want to go as straight as possible to your bank stick. On this rod I'm actually using sinking braid. So that last, you know, it's not actually that far from my bank, but that last 10 meters will be on the floor. And I've also got a thick leader on, snag leader, which definitely helped us out this morning. And strong hooks, you can't mess around out here. You've seen what the bank looks like. That's what's underneath. You've got stones, you've got trees. You're not here, you know, if you get a bite, you want to land it. You're not here to get bites and lose it. And it's hard work getting the bites. So you need strong tackle. Journey started yesterday at 10 to 5. We left my house to go to the oil tunnel, catch the tunnel crossing, and then we're a bit indecisive where to go. We wanted to go central France. There's a lot of lakes, you know, we're in August at the moment, which don't allow night fishing during August. So we needed legal night zones where we could fish, and they're open all year round. So we looked at one central area, so we dropped in on a lake, which is about a 6-hour drive from Calais. We found the fish on the drone. They just weren't the size of fish we were after, and they were actually out of the night zone, the old days only zone. It would have been a lot of effort, and there was a lot of small fish. You know, I think the biggest was a 20-pound common from the drone footage. So, you know, that was a beautiful barrage, not as big as this, so I think, you know, that was probably 100 a hectare, but we decided to carry on. We drove another 2 hours, and we're just in the south of France now, and we're at this magical inland sea. You know, it's huge. You can't get it in the drone, you can't get the full thing when you're at the max. It is a big lake. I've been shared pins, if I'm totally honest, and someone recommended this place to me, one of my Dutch mates. What we did, we turned up at 7, we looked at the other boat launch. It was very busy, you know, Republic, a lot of boats. It didn't feel the run. We drove round to this boat launch, and we drove round to the swim, if you can call it that. I think it's more of a cliff. You know, we are fishing on an angle. It's not, they're not known swims, they're not cut out for the anglers. You're fishing in nature, so you've got to make it work for you. So, you know, I've got stones in my bed chair to make it level. Nothing in the swim's level. We're fishing, it's very rocky. And we got here around about 10 p.m. and I spent the next 2 hours getting the rods out. So 2 on the far bank in 4 meters, the left-hand one in a 4 meter near a tree. And then I went right, the right one was on the far bank under another tree. And that's why you have back leads on. Right under Rent, and really epic boat battle out in the dark. You know, it's pitch black here at night. There's no unnatural lights here, so all you see is the stars. Playing this fish, landed it. You know, what a great start. I've got a fish out of this monster water. And then this morning, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I saw a little bit of first light, but I wasn't up at the crack of dawn. 7 o'clock, left-hander reeled off, and we're into another one. Jumped out in the boat, and unfortunately this one got snagged, but we managed to get it back. All the tackle held really firm. And now what we've done, we've re-looked at 2 of the far margin rods. We've dropped one slightly deeper where we saw a few fish show, and then we've dropped one on a plateau. It comes up either side from 6 meters to a 3 meter plateau, and then drops off at the back of that. So we're going night ahead, and we're, you know, looking positive for it. I think we're here for 2 more nights. I think we can get another couple of fish. Hopefully have one of the big ones that are in here, but let's see. So, you know, my recommendations, so when I first came out doing this type of fishing, I wasn't prepared. So there's some key items I'd recommend what you need to come out here. You know, you need a strong outboard. On these big lakes, you need a thrust, especially when it gets windy. It needs to be, I would say, 50 pound or above thrust. And that's because when the wind picks up, you won't be able to get out and you won't be able to control your boat. From a boat point of view, I'd recommend a 2.3 meter or above. That's enough to get your kit in and yourself, and it is easy for spots and landing fish. Anything smaller on this type of water, the wind gets up and You can do it, it's just, it's not as fun, it's not as enjoyable. And then 10-foot rods. So I'd recommend 10-foot rods with any boat work. Reason is, again, the 12-foot, when you're playing that fish, it's a lot of extension and you will spin around in the boat. The 10-foot, you've got a lot more control, you can use your outboard a lot easier, everything's a bit more to hand, and you're not outreaching when you're netting it because of the arc of the angle. So it makes your life a lot easier in the boat. And then a life jacket. So a life jacket is a must. You never know what happens. You might fall in, you might be great swimmers, but you might be 250 metres away from the bank. It is knackering, especially if you've got your clothes on. You need to be safe, so 100% a life jacket. And then a big leisure battery. If that's lithium or acid leisure battery, either or. But you need the power for the motor. And then you need an echo sounder. You don't need one, but I'd highly recommend it. It makes understanding the topography of the lake and the hard spots a lot easier. It takes a lot less time. You can use a deeper, you can buy an echo sounder, it doesn't matter if it's black or white. It'll tell you the depth and it'll tell you the hardness. I use a black and white one for years. I've only recently upgraded to one with side scan. I still caught plenty of fish. It does make my life a little bit easier. You don't need it. You just need the depth and the hard spots. Other recommendations, some zip ties. So this might be a random one, but zip ties. When you can't get your bank sticks in, you've got tree roots. You can zip tie your bank stick onto that tree root, so it won't move. Really good pieces of kit which you might not think about. And then spares. So you need spares in your van for multiple occasions. A boat's just gone past. I've had multiple times in the past where a boat's coming too close, between me and my back lead, and it's taken my line, spooled me. And if I don't have spare braid in the van or on me, I'm not fishing for the rest of the week. So I'm only fishing 3 rods or no rods, and I have to pack up, go to the shop and find some braid. So my recommendation is at least have 4 spools of braid in the van, one on you. I've got spare spools as well. You need those spares, you need spare leads. You never know, you might have a session of a lifetime. I personally carry 14 leads with me, and if I need any more, I'll go back to the van. It's just a number I find, I don't always drop them, but if I do, I'll carry a few more, but I'll keep them in the van. They're heavy, it's a lot of weight to carry, especially on these banks. You can just nip back to the van, it doesn't take long, and spare bait as well. So if you want to move, you can. If you bring it all with you, you're not going to move. And then last and not least, but you need strong end tackle. You need, I use out here 35-pound jelly wire, stiff or soft, I like them both, and size 4 grabbers and size 4 trodders, depending on if I'm using a bottom bait or a pop-up. You need strong hooks, big thick piece of metal, because that's all what's going to be between you and the fish, and then a strong leader material. I use a 0.52 fluoro, or I'll go up if I need to, but you need a thick diameter mono onto your braid. Another key piece of the preparation is finding the waters and understanding, you need multiple different points and pins on your map in that region, because there could be bivvy city when you turn up, or there could be no fish in it. So how I go about it is I look at Google Maps, I look at where I want to base myself, and then I will search every piece of water in that area, so Lacta, whatever it is, and then I'll go to the APA website, which is the local department for the fishing society who runs that water. From that information, I'll know if you can do nights, can't do nights, if there's what fish are in there, what size of the water is, what the regulations are. If I find somewhere which takes my fancy, if I can do night fishing, then I'll do more research. Luckily for me, I've got some contacts in Europe who help me, friends. So I've built a relationship with people on the bank when I've been fishing in Europe, and we share information. I go some places, say, I've had it for this, they share some information with me, and you build that network up coming out here. And you actually make friends for life. Last year I went to Netherlands because I got invited over by my Dutch mates to go and fish with them. It is a very social place out here when you meet people, because everyone's like-minded anglers who want the same thing, freedom and to catch some carp. You know, there's no, I've caught, that's my spot, or that out here. It's a very different way of fishing. Yeah, once you've got your water, so you need a backup plan. So you need to 100% have multiple locations in the area, or reasonable drive. You know, you definitely need, you know, we went to plan A. Plan A, it didn't turn out to be the one. It just wasn't worth it. It wasn't looking great. The water level was low. So we went for plan B. Well, it's actually plan D, because plan A, the nights weren't allowed in August. You know, things are flexible, and you need to check their Facebook page and of the authorities who run that lake, and their website, because they do change the rules. Year on year, the rule change. I had a great night lake, and now there's no nights. That was just changed overnight. So that is my biggest thing, is around having the prep to understand you've got multiple lakes in the area to go to. Very challenging, but exciting at the same time. I pick that piece of blue and give it a go, because you never know what he's going to be on the end. You know, you can do 2 or 3 nights. You might have monster fish, or you might have a load of small fish. You might have nothing, but you know, I think for me it's the thrill of the unknowing. You know, I don't know what's in every lake I fish. I hear rumours, but I've not seen photos. So sometimes it's nice to see if the rumours are true. As I mentioned earlier, strong end tackle is a must for this type of fishing. My go-to rig in this situation is the Slip D, and the components I use to create the Slip D is either the jelly wire stiff or soft in 35 pounds. I put a slug midway, 2 slugs at the end, and that's just to weigh it down to make sure it's sitting on the bottom. And then I use a large curve, and then I use the good old trusted grabber in a size 4. That is my bottom bait go-to rig, and I will use that between 10 to 12 inches in the stiff, and in the soft I'll go down to 8 to 10 inches, just because it's a bit more supple, and when you longer it is falling out the boat, there's more chance for it to catch around. So I'd rather have a shorter hook length in that scenario. Why do I go to Slip D? A very robust rig, and what I can do, sometimes you go out there, it happened yesterday, you can dink your hook length. There's massive rocks out there, and this now enables me to change that hook out in the boat easily, so I don't have to come all the way back, put on a new rig and go all the way back out. That's why I use the multi-Slip D, and it gives me the presentation. These are big carp. I'm putting a spreader bait out. They are picking up individual baits, so in my head they come and pick that up, and we've got enough string there to hang themselves, and that's why it's strong. All the components are strong, and that's why it's my go-to. So I finished the rig off with a hook bait swivel, and I either have 2 approaches. I go for a boiler approach, which is a minimum of a 22mm bottom bait, hardened hook bait with a pop-up. In this case it's a high vis, or I'd go to an 18mm match the hatch pop-up. For my second hook bait option, I would use tiger nuts, but I would use a ring of tiger nuts so that we're not getting picked up by the bream. It's a big mouthful. These carp in here have got big mouths. I need some buoyancy in that hook bait just for the rig to sit like that. Bait for this session I'm using is a mixture of two flavoured boilies. I'm using the DNA S07 and the bug in a mixture of 18 and 22s. Ideally you want 22s and bigger, and I'm using tiger nuts and peanuts. I'm not putting any small bait in. If you put maize and other small bait in, you risk the chance of the bream turning up and it can ruin your session. Right, we're going to go and get the rods back out on the spot. It's around about 5:30. It's a perfect time to do it before the night's ahead. It's a nice shallow ledge, and it's rock hard. This rig's slightly different to the one I described earlier. This is my pop-up rig, so it's the multi-hinge. The components I use is the jelly wire, stiff or soft, in 35 pound is the boom section, and then I have a ring swivel, and then I have the chod wire doubled up as my chod section to a chodder in a size 4. This rig is bomb-proof. You know, unfortunately we had a fish snagged earlier. We managed to extract it out, and nothing wrong with the rig at all. I have redone the boom, but to be honest I could have put it back out. I just didn't want to risk it. I've fished this rig all around the continent and it's never let me down. Feel it all the way down to the bottom, a bit more, bang, and then we just talk about a big spread of bait. Feels good, and hopefully it was the same result as we had this morning. Another one on this rig. We end up with a couple more, and I'll be able to show you them in the morning. Right, it'll be that one, yeah.
Right, what's just happened, bro?
What's just happened is, just going to bed, my left-hander is absolutely melted off, and we're on to another public lake carp. This is on the stiff.
Literally right in the middle of my time lapse.
Right in the middle of the time lapse.
My microphone transmitter is dead, so we are now camera audio as well, guys, so apologies for this one.
Can't all be big ones. There he is. Good morning. So after a quiet night, only having a little one around about 11 PM, we're deciding to pack up and move. It's been pretty dead. We haven't seen anything this morning. Didn't hear the shows like we did the previous night around this area. So we're gonna have a look around the other side of the lake. If we don't see anything there, we're gonna jump back in the van and we're gonna go and drive and look at some other venues around the region. This is what public lakes is all about. If you're not on the location of the fish, you can sit if you've got time and ball them out, or you can get on your toes and chase them. We packed up at the other lake after a quiet night. We drove 2.5 hours to a slightly smaller lake to do the last night on. I've had a few fish out of here before. They're not all monsters, but there's a bigger head of carp in here. So hopefully we'll be lucky. So just rowing out the last rod. It's very silty. So it's a typical barrage lake where you get a lot of mud on the bottom. So you're just looking for the less milky, the less muddy areas. You know, so you're looking at the shallower mud, harder areas within that. We ain't got a lot of depth. The water level, normally fishing up under those snags, but the water level is really down. So we're going to give it a night here, roll up the dice, and see what we can have. Right, think, why am I rowing? We're fishing open water. You don't need the boat to play the fish, and we saw fish, so rowing actually makes a little bit less disturbance. We're fishing a lake which is deep in the woods. You know, it's a beautiful lake. Got thick, dense woodlands. It's so picturesque. Yeah, I think, top of my head, I think it's about 500 acres. Roughly in size. Put that in perspective, that's smaller than the arm we're fishing in the other lake. It has got a healthy stocking. You know, I was here in April last year, 4 nights. You know, I had 7 carp. Nothing massive, but they'll stun us. And it's just a nice place to stop off on the way back. And then we'll have a 6-hour drive in the morning, hopefully with wet nets and, you know, smiles on our faces. Early hours in the morning, second fish, small carp common for this one. This left hand is just absolutely rattling off. It's like they put some new stockies in there. I'm going to get a rod back out, I'm going to stick the fish in the retainer for about 45 minutes. When the sun gets up, and we'll be able to do some photos. Just feel a bit heavier than the last two. Come back, let go down. Oh yeah, this was off the back of the plateau. One and a bit meters of water, not right on top of the plateau. I think they've put a lot of stockies in here. This is about the same size, yeah. There's been a lot of fish in there, but never used to be. Yeah, they've put a lot of stockies in there. Never used to be this sort of size. Third number fish. I think there's been a stocking recently, it seems, but we'll put a slipper back, get a rod back out, and hopefully we'll have one of the originals. Here's the first light bite. I managed to have another 2 during the night. I think they have recently stocked the lake. They're a little bit smaller average than I was expecting. However though, 3 in a night and 500 acres, I'll take that. You can't decide what fish picks up your bait. This shows the tactics work. We did 3 nights, 6 fish on 2 different venues, from an inland sea to a 500 acre lake. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Dial In, and I'll see you on the next one.